Hello friends, I'm George, the nice smelling gentleman. Welcome back to the channel guys, I hope that all of you are doing well. It's time for your daily dose of some fragrance content, and since it's also Monday, that means it's time for another episode of Fragrance Battle. But today's episode is going to be a little bit different. Today I'm going to compare some scents, but I'm also going to compare two brands. For today I've prepared a total of 6 fragrances from 2 different brands. On one hand we have Maison Alhambra, and then on the other hand we have Fragrance World. So let's battle out some scents and also some fragrance brands. First of all, I just want to quickly explain to you why I picked up this topic for today's episode of Fragrance Battle, and why I'm also comparing brands, not only scents from those two brands. Now, when you think of Maison Alhambra and Fragrance World, if you have been in the fragrance game at least for a while, you know that both fragrances have a huge portfolio of scents, but almost all of the scents in both brands, especially when it comes to Maison Alhambra, are basically clones or fragrances that are heavily inspired by original designer and niche scents. And the same can be said for Fragrance World, although they have a few original creations, but most of their portfolio is also made up of clone fragrances. And one other factor is the fact that, in both cases, when you think of Fragrance World and Maison Alhambra, you know that at the end of the day you get not only scents that are very close to the original fragrances that they have been inspired by, but also the packaging will also look very similar to the original scents. Now at the current time, both companies have actually started to move away a little bit from cloning not only the scents but also the packaging and the bottle design of the original scents, but still you can readily find fragrances from both companies that are very similar, that look very similar to the original scents. Now, another thing that I wanted to point out is the fact that Fragrance World as a whole, as a brand, is a little bit more expensive than Maison Alhambra. Not by much, but there, at least around here in Europe, there's a little bit of a difference between the prices of Fragrance World and Maison Alhambra. Now, there are a few exceptions of that rule, and I'm going to show you one such exception today, but generally speaking, Fragrance World is a little bit more expensive, and that makes you think that you should expect slightly higher quality, and I think that's the case. But enough with the chit chat now, let's move on to the actual fragrances that I'm going to compare today. The first two examples that I've picked up for today's episode of Fragrance Battle are two clones of a designer fragrance that I absolutely love. The original comes from the brand of Jean-Paul Gaultier and it's called Le Beau Le Parfum. And the two examples today are Glacier Le Noir from Maison Alhambra and Gustav Homme Le Parfum. Now I've done a separate video where I've battled out all clones of Le Beau Le Parfum that I have in my collection. So I'm not going to go too much into details today when it comes to those two because I've covered them. But again, I'll quickly go over the quality and the scent of the two fragrances. When it comes to Glacier Le Noir, this is a good clone of Le Beau Le Parfum, although I don't think this is the best clone that you can get of Le Beau Le Parfum. Especially initially when I first got this fragrance, I was quite disappointed by the scent. It was a little bit rough around the edges, it didn't perform very well. But a few months of maceration have actually helped with this scent, and in that dedicated episode of Fragrance Battle on Le Beau Le Parfum clones, this actually came in second place. So after a few months of maceration, Glacier Le Noir is actually a pretty decent clone of Le Beau Le Parfum. What I don't like about this fragrance is the presentation. The bottle design looks really goofy, and again, scent wise this is slightly off compared to the original scent. When it comes to Gustav Homme Le Parfum, this actually is a better clone, and in my opinion currently from what I've tried, this is the best clone of Le Beau Le Parfum that you can get. Scent wise gets very close to the original fragrance. I think the overall quality is better when it comes to the packaging, the bottle design, the presentation. This has a better sprayer, and all around this is in this case you can see that for me the clear winner is Gustav Homme Le Parfum. The whole reason is because this is a little bit closer scent wise, has slightly better performance, and also this definitely has better quality, but at least around here this is also a little bit more expensive. The second example that I've picked up for today is again, two clones of an original fragrance from Jean-Paul Gaultier, which is called Le Beau, from the Le Beau line, and the two clones are Glacier both from Maison Alhambra and Gustav Homme Amaze from Fragrance World. Now, I've not covered these two fragrances in a separate fragrance battle. I'll probably do it at some point in the future. But just to quickly go over the two scents, in this case, for me, there's even more clear, a clearer winner when it comes to those two. Glacier both for me turned out to be quite a disappointment because I don't think this is a straight up clone of neither the EDT or the EDP versions of the original fragrance of the Le Beau fragrance. I don't know if Maison Alhambra tried to clone the EDP or the EDT and end up missing the mark, or whether they try to do something in between the two fragrances. But this for me feels like a fragrance that does not know exactly what it's trying to do. Not a bad scent on its own, but still, if you're looking for something that will get you close to the Le Beau line, I don't think this is the one that you have to get. Performance is decent, nothing spectacular, but it's not super disappointing. But all around, again, just lacks a bit of identity and lacks the knowledge of what this fragrance is actually trying to do. When it comes to Gustav Homme Amaze, I think this is a very, very good clone of the EDT Le Beau fragrance from Jean Paul Gaultier. It's pretty similar to the original fragrance, lacks a bit of the sweetness of the original one, which in this case for me is a good thing because the original fragrances have always been a bit too sweet for my taste personally. But Gustav Homme has Amaze has better quality. Performance-wise, they're pretty much on par, but still I think there's a slight edge when it comes to Gustav Homme Amaze. And all around, this will simply get you closer to the original fragrance. And the most important thing is that the quality here is just simply higher. Again, this is a little bit more expensive than Glacier both, so you have to pay a little bit of a premium in order to get the better clone. But again, in this case, I think that Gustav Homme Amaze is the better choice, and again, Fragrance World is just simply the better choice compared to Maison Alhambra. And I'm going to give you a third example, but I also don't want to look like I'm biased towards Fragrance World. So I've picked up a pair of fragrances from both brands that in this case, Maison Alhambra for me is the clear winner. The two scents that I'm going to talk about now are Tobacco Mid from Fragrance World and Exclusive Tobacco from Maison Alhambra. Now here we're talking about clones of Carolina Herrera's Mystery Tobacco. Now again, I've done a fragrance battle where I've covered all clones of Mystery Tobacco that I have, so again I'm not going to go over too much details in this particular case, but in this case for me the winner here is Exclusive Tobacco. Tobacco Mid is a slightly more tobacco-y, slightly darker take on the Mystery Tobacco DNA in my opinion and to my nose, and this actually feels a little bit closer to Mancera's Red Tobacco, especially after some maceration, compared to Mystery Tobacco from Carolina Herrera. It's a decent performer, the quality is not bad, but just misses the mark a little bit when it comes to how close it is to the original fragrance. On the other hand, Exclusive Tobacco actually feels closer to Mystery Tobacco from Carolina Herrera. I think this has slightly better quality, it has slightly better performance. Also, it feels a little bit brighter, a little bit easier to wear in my honest opinion. Now, price-wise, in this case, they are pretty much more or less equally priced. So this is one example where Maison Alhambra actually is a little bit more expensive or matches the price of a Fragrance World scent. So again, if you're looking for the clone that will actually get you closer to Mystery Tobacco from Carolina Herrera and overall the better fragrance here, both when it comes to the scent quality and both when it comes to also the performance, for me Exclusive Tobacco is just the better choice. So in this case actually Maison Alhambra has done a better job. And at the end, a few final words about today's fragrance battle, where I compared not only scents but brands as a whole. As a whole, for me, Fragrance World is the slightly better brand. It offers slightly better quality, it offers a slightly better performance in most cases, in most examples, and all around they just feel a little bit of a high quality, just a little bit better sense, overall. Now, keep in mind that in most cases also they tend to be a little bit more expensive. We're talking about small differences here of only a few euros, but still, or dollars, but still Fragrance World is the brand that's a little bit more expensive compared to Maison Alhambra. But again, I don't want to look biased to you. That's why I gave you an example where actually Maison Alhambra have done a better job compared to Fragrance World. Also, because both companies have a huge portfolio and because their business model is pretty much the same, cloning the same original fragrances. In the future, I'll probably compare some more, fragrances from both brands that are doing the same thing, copying or cloning the same original fragrance. But in today's episode of Fragrance Battle, my conclusion is, at least for the moment, at least from what I've tried and what I own, that Fragrance World offers a slightly better, slightly higher quality and slightly better performance compared to Maison Alhambra. And so guys, in today's episode of Fragrance Battle, I compared a few scents but also two brands, Fragrance World and Maison Alhambra. I hope that you found this video interesting. If you did, give it a like, and I also hope that you're going to join me tomorrow for your daily dose of some fragrance content. And until then, stay safe and bye bye.